Zoom.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
more fun when I just get super old school. All right, that's good. Welcome to Rock Stars in Action. Got my buddy Rami Odeh here today. I'm super excited to have him, and I thought I'd share an idea before we jump into the conversation with Rami, and it really is conversation. But I had a thought that, and I shared this with the folks on my team, and I thought it's worthy of sharing with you as well. But that your network is your net worth, and I'm super proud that I've got, and I'm proud not because of anything I suppose that I did, but that I've been blessed to have some amazing people come into my life that have added value in unique ways. And Rami is one of those. And the whole premise behind this Rock Stars in Action is me sharing some of the more special people that I've come across that have impacted me in positive ways. And in the spirit of your network being your net worth, this season in life is a great season to be able to, to work harder at enhancing your net worth through a network. And it's not because you're calling for something, but when you call for contribution, people really, really appreciate you at a different level. And the law of reciprocity eventually, favors you. And so one idea, we're all calling our database, and most of the people in our database are connected to a job or a purpose. They do something that you could, of course, add value in what they do, even in the form of referrals in today's world, even remotely. But what if you were strategic about enhancing your network and you went from a business perspective, just like if you joined a BNI group or a Power Core? Hopefully you guys are familiar with networking groups. In fact, Rami, we were in a networking group together
A long
15
time
or
ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
I have to confess, I was trying to remember how we exactly met. Do you remember? I know we were in Ping, which we were both.
Do. Yeah. But we met before that. I think I referred you to Ping. So
I
we
think you
met
did.
before I had kids, and my son is 18. So that's how old we are, brother.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So networking is powerful. And when you come from contribution and your network favors another person's network and their goals in life and business, everyone wins. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think, 65%, I was reading it on the BNI website, that 65% of all referrals are inside of your network for the average business person and average salesperson. And so what I thought today to just inspire you is to conjure up, go to your referral or your vendor directory of people that are unique and specific, that you refer regularly, and make sure you've got great people in each category. And I'm going to put on our Facebook, on the Heart of Atlanta group Facebook page, I'm going to post, there's probably 75 or 80 ideas for business network opportunities and people in different industries. And how about this call? Instead of the traditional call to people, keep calling the people you know and love, but to enhance your network, call with the idea that, hey, I have an amazing network of people that rely on me for referrals. And it's bread and butter for a real estate agent. And would it benefit you if on occasion I was able to refer business your way relative to your industry? And I personally can't imagine that the answer wouldn't be yes. And I can't imagine that anyone wouldn't be excited to take that call, maybe now more than ever, where incoming or inbound referral opportunities and relationship opportunities probably have gone down. So there's not a lot of walk-ins, is what I'm trying to say. So the two things I would remind you is, one, go to the list and be strategic about it. Who don't you have in your network that if you did might help someone in your network? And I would require two things for someone to join my vendor list or be a part of my network. And one, I would make it clear that there's no cost. So the goal is not to charge, and that you only have two requests. One, that they're competitively priced relative to their market and their value proposition. And number two, they do great work and make you look good. If you could mute yourself, that'd be awesome. And so so one is price competitively, two, do great work so that when you do refer them, you look great. And the only other thing I'd recommend is make sure that when you can initiate this with a call and then follow up with, why don't we grab a Zoom together for 20, 30 minutes and get to know each other over a cup of coffee, put a face with a name, and get a feel for them so that you can most accurately refer business in a way that they would want to receive it. So just an idea of the day, I'm going to post the list of, there's probably 75, 80 different industries or areas of expertise that you could generate leads from, but also add value, which is the ultimate win-win. So there you go. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce my good friend. That was tip of the day, Rami Odeh. We met pre-networking group, but then we spent probably a decade in a group, and I wouldn't have. I only quit because I got to a place where I was spending so much time managing and building the business that, the personal sales side became, I had to make choices. But man, for 10 years straight, we shared a lot of referrals. And I bet 70% of my business came from networking groups, especially early on. So there's power in that. So you've had a tremendous career. You're a successful business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You own Formal Fitness, and you've trained and coached over 5,000 people. You've got a dual degree in psychology, different aspects of psychology. You're an author. You're a great family man, a father, spiritually driven and governed and compassed. Without going further, man, welcome to the show. I appreciate you coming and sharing. I can tell you the best fitness and the best mental and physical shape I'd ever been in were probably a decade or so that I spent training with you. And so for that, I'm grateful. So let's start by just telling us a little bit about you. Where'd you come from? How'd you get your start? And how did fitness become something you were truly passionate about?
Well, thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. I feel very honored to be here. And I didn't know if you know this, but this is actually going to be a workout with you today. So you're going to work out and everybody's going to watch. What do you think of that? He just fell down.
Spandex is under my shirt. I'm ready.
Yeah. So, I know I'm not going to go real deep on this, but, fitness has been a part of my life, really my whole life since I was a kid. Another thing you and I share, which is crazy, is racing motorcycles and riding motorcycles. And that's where I started when I was 12, 13. And I got into fitness because, I was out of shape riding motorcycles. And so I got into it. And, really funny story about that. I decided to become a runner, and I absolutely hated running. And people love to hear that because, now you look at me and what I do. And I could not run a quarter mile around my block when I was racing motorcycles when I was 14, 15 years old. And decided that I was going to do it then, just decided it on my own. So I kind of used fitness to get in shape for something else, if that makes sense. Like I didn't like running. I didn't want to do it, but I did it to become a better motorcycle rider. And that just progressed through my life. And it's been a component of my life, even through college. And, that's a lot of years now. So I've been running for 42 years straight, and I'm still in the same spot. It's unbelievable. I haven't gotten anywhere. So it's making me crazy, but and so, I interestingly enough, I went to graduate school for psychology, got out, went to the corporate world. And I liked my job, but I hated the corporate environment. You know me now, you know my personality. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love to run my own show. And I lasted about 3 years in that world and had an epiphany while I was actually in a meeting in the corporate world that this was not where I needed to be. And I was surrounded by people who were not where they wanted to be, and they were in their 50s and 60s, and I was 28 at the time. And I made a decision that day, and it's kind of how I run my life. Went back to graduate school, quit my job, went to school for exercise science, and that was in 1992, and I have been in the fitness industry ever since. So from a one moment in a meeting to 2020, so that's can't even do it. 38 years. Is that the right math? Something like that. 40 years. Yeah, I've been in that world. So it's been an incredible journey. I feel very blessed to have done it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you do it well, and you do it at a high level, and you have a really cool way of holding people accountable, but it's rarely about what you tell them you want to do. It's always about their story. So what's the psychology behind motivation that you found after 5,000 people? What works best?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that instead of the typical question that I get is, what's the best piece of exercise equipment to buy? Or what's the best diet that I should do? And that is probably 90% of the questions I get. And the frustrating answer, which is the answer to your question, is it's individual, right? It's different for everybody, but nothing works. No diet, no exercise, no plan, nothing until you figure out your why. And I stole the statement from Gary Keller, and I use it all the time. If it doesn't make you cry, it's not a big enough why, right? So I saw that years ago when I saw him online, and it's so true. So when I start working with somebody, whether it's in a corporate environment, individually, in the gym, we don't talk about anything regarding diet or exercise. We talk about, why do you want to do this? And typically, that's a hard conversation. We call it peeling back the onion, right? Like the answer typically is, well, I want to lose weight. Well, that's not actually a why, that's a goal, right? And so why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to look better. Well, why do you want to look better? And that process with every person is so different. With somebody like you that's kind of in touch with what you're doing, that might take 15 minutes to get there. I have had clients that it took weeks, and sometimes it doesn't even get there. Like sometimes it changes, right? Like the joke I use in my presentations is my why when I was 18 was what? What do you think? Why did I work out, Rick?
I'm
18
sure it
years
was
old.
trying
What's
to
that?
appear attractive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was gonna say pick up girls, but you made it nicer. So,
You're
yeah, look good
naturally
with.
hot, but
Well, thank you, thank you. So to look good with your shirt off, and I used to say I only worked the muscles that you could see in the mirror, like your chest and your quads, nothing else, because it didn't matter. And that why was great and it was powerful. And when you're 18, that gets you out of bed in the morning to work out. Not so much the same thing when you're 57 years old and married with 2 kids. And so, your why changes, and that's where a coach comes in to kind of peel that back, determine why is it that you want to do this, and is it real, and are you truly ready? I mean, this is a crazy thing that I do. I have turned people away because they are absolutely not ready to change, and that's okay, because I would rather them not waste their time or waste my time and be frustrated when they're just really not ready to do what they're, they have a goal, but they're not ready. Their why isn't powerful enough to do it. So that's a big
right.
part of my job. So you can tell the psychology is really powerful.
Well, it's a huge influence when you have a connection with your why or purpose. It's like fuel, it's jet fuel. And
Yep.
one thing coaching, I've coached a lot of people in my lifetime too. And what I've found as well, it's not always this big, huge thing. Like it's not like, save, solve, or cure universal issues or problems or societal challenge or, well water and food and homeless. I mean, it can be, but sometimes a big why is just 4 or 5 little medium size relevant things that make you whole, that you stack end to end, that start to feel like the purposeful you were meant to be, that you were created to do. Have you
That's a,
seen that
that
as well?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I was just thinking of some examples in my head as you were talking. And, you know, one of the things too is you realize that somebody else's why could mean absolutely nothing to you as their coach. Like it doesn't resonate with you at all. And I have a client who's significantly overweight, and you would think that he has a multitude of whys as to his health and his cholesterol and dying early and all that. And we peeled that thing back to the point where his biggest why is to be able to get on a roller coaster with his kid at Disney World. He's too big
Oh,
to get on it. And that is so powerful for him, because I think that encapsulates everything in his life, that all I have to do is repeat that to him and he's on track. And
yeah,
we've actually put a date, and they've bought the tickets to Disney World. We're hoping Disney World is reopened at this point, might be a
right.
virtual roller coaster, but you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Yeah.
I get that. I get that
Yeah.
for sure. So what strategies have you found useful in helping people once they kind of identify what it is that inspires them, but that accountability piece of it? I know I could just tell you when I worked out with you, I was in a small group of 3 people, sometimes 4. And these guys, man, I didn't, 2 reasons I think I tried harder. One is not to look like a goo ball and be the weak link. And the other was just that I didn't want to let anyone down. Like being part of a group, we were all kind of working the same circuit and cycle, and I didn't want to be dragging behind short and, creating an environment that wasn't best for them and their best outcome. And the third reason, actually, you would call me and text me more often than not if I'd missed a session or two. And our sessions were, I mean, I was up at 5 a.m. to drive down from
Right.
Alpharetta to Roswell on the way into town. And you text me something like, don't be a big lard something. And, get off your chunky self and shame
Yeah.
actually worked. But
Yeah.
everyone has their own story. How do you help someone evolve into what it is that helps hold them accountable?
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny. I do a lot of obviously I do a lot of virtual and online coaching now. And one of the things, when I sold my fitness company, I kept all my nutritional clients. So I do nutritional coaching. This is one-on-one on the phone, and I don't lie to anybody. I'm very, very transparent about what I sell. I have a ton of knowledge. I have a background. I have a graduate degree in this. I've been doing it for 40 years. But what I sell and what I really give to people is accountability. And the example I use is, if you had to see your dentist every Friday, you would floss every day, right? Like how many of us literally don't floss until 2 days before our dental cleaning? Like, oh my gosh, they're going to know that I didn't floss. Well, if you know that every Friday you have to pick up the phone and call your nutritionist, and we're going to pull up your food logs, and we're going to look online and see what you ate, and we're going to get on a scale, you're going to do well. I'll give you a crazy example. There's a doctor in LA. Now, he's an MD, so he's got the instant credibility. He charges $300 a month. And all it is you have to go to his office every day, get on his scale and they write down your weight. That's it. He doesn't give coaching. He doesn't give diet advice. He just, you have to come every day and get on the scale and write on a board what your weight is, $300 a month. And he's got hundreds of clients. So I'm trying to simplify it by saying, you know, I'd love to give this big thing, but really some type of accountability. If it's not with me, it's with, like you said, it's with friends, it's with a group. It's somebody who's going to reach out to you when you're not there. That's a massive thing. You know, you're missed right now, Rick. Like, we miss you. Where are you? If you can't make it in today, let's get you in here tomorrow. And I do that with everybody, and I've done it for years.
Right. So perfect segue to, so what does holistic health look like in your world? And maybe start with nutrition. And, you know, obviously the environment we're in today has changed things. You know, it's created unlimited potential to be creative in and around your home and in natural parks and areas. But it's also created this environment where your office is your house, and the inability to separate those two is potentially causing people problems. In fact, jokingly yesterday, I was talking to the operations manager for the region about something I'd failed to deliver the day before. And I'm like, you know, I get that you need it, but it's not like we're not working. And she goes, "Oh, you're working half days too." And I said, "Yeah, a day and a half every day." And so I think a lot of people are really working hard. So how do you create an environment, and maybe start with the health, the nutrition side, and then we'll talk about physical things and guide us through some ideas.
Yeah, let's talk about the world today, right? Because it's so interesting how it has changed in the last, I would say, 7 weeks, right? It's crazy think about where we were in the end of February, beginning of March. And I had a great call with a client the other day, and he said something so poignant. He said he was walking around his house, and he was in, you know, he's a high level guy, works in human resources. He's really high up in his company. And he was in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, and he hadn't shaved, and he hadn't taken a shower. And he looked at his wife and he said, "I feel like I'm sick. Like, I feel like I've got, like, this is the way I would look and feel if I had the flu and I was stuck at home and couldn't work." But he's working 12 hours, you know? We've started to blend this eternal snow day, right? Like the first, what did everybody do? I don't know why they bought toilet paper, but they went out and bought milk and cookies and hot chocolate, and like it was going to be this snow day, you know? And now it's 7 weeks long. And so the challenges are unbelievable. I mean, even myself, this is what I do for a living. I find myself walking in the kitchen 35 times a day. And I open the refrigerator, you know, that thing you do where you open the fridge and you stare at it thinking something great is going to pop up, you know? And so the challenges are unbelievable. So one of the biggest things I'm coaching people on in nutrition is having accountability, just like you did before. So like one of the things I do with my clients that I didn't do in the past, we steered away from getting on the scale. We're actually getting on the scale now every day. And when they report to me, instead of reporting the weight that they got that day, because one of the things I found is that people were eating really good the day before that they weighed in with me, you know? And so I have them weigh every day for a week, and we take the average, because that kind of floats out one of those weird days where you gain 2 pounds because you ate Mexican food, but it really wasn't weight gain, it was just water gain. And then they give me the average, and so they're not freaked out about a bad day, and they're also not putting all their hopes on a good day. So that, just that accountability, kind of like the MD in California, is a massive thing, because it would be so easy in this 8-week, maybe it's 12-week period for people to gain 40 pounds easily. And, you know, it is so much easier to put weight on than it is to get it off. And so my coaching, when I have a client who's maintaining, massive win. It's a massive win during this time because the challenges are so high. So, you know, controlling your environment is a massive thing, but how much of that can we do? You know, your kids are older, but I've got 2 teenagers. I think that we have tried every flavor of Oreos that exists. I didn't know there was more than one, by the way. There's like 40 flavors of Oreos. And, you know, I'm a food addict like everybody else. So I have to like really work at controlling it. And again, I'm a coach. I also have 3 coaches myself. And so I'm accountable to them. And I'm also accountable to my clients. Like, I don't think that my clients would want to look on my food log and see 57 Oreos. They like seeing 2 to know that I'm human, which I very much am, but so much might not be there. So sorry, long-winded answer to that, but
no, it's a great
it's a different world. Yep.
So as far as what you reach for, what are the,
Yeah,
health hacks, let's call it that for fun. Just what are, instead of grabbing like, I love chips. It's, man,
right.
salty. And if you can put some French onion with it, dip, I'm even happier.
Yeah,
I can just tell you my quick hack belief. I figured this out, that if I grab the big bag and sit down, it's over. If
yep.
I take a handful and put them on a plate, I start to recognize the portion I'm eating, as opposed to
Right.
just being this subconscious arm movement to my face.
Yeah, yeah, the unconscious eating,
So
yeah, is a big
go ahead.
thing.
Just what are some ideas of great snacks or health hacks or things you found that help not
Yeah.
lean into a fridge and pull out whatever's, maybe the unhealthiest?
Yeah, one of the things I want to throw out there, and I want to put a little caveat on this one, because if you want to try this and you've never done it, hopefully we'll put my contact information at the end and people can reach out to me. You can text, call, email, whatever. Let me walk you through this process. There's no charge for it. I'll do it on a 15, 20-minute call, but I want to make sure you do this right. There's a big fad now, and not a fad, but it's been around for thousands of years, with intermittent fasting. And I'm sure you've heard of it. And I'm going to give props to you, Rick. It's hilarious because you were the guy that would never eat breakfast. And you told me, I'm just not hungry till lunch. And back then, I would never let anybody not eat breakfast. I'm like, no, it's the most important meal of the day. You have to do it. Now, all my clients fast all morning, including myself. So you were a trendsetter, Rick Hale. You were a nutritional guru when you were doing
Just
this. So
listening to my body.
yeah, well, and that's true. And it's so interesting how little we need. So one of the first hacks I would suggest people do is, and I've got some great resources and podcasts and things like that on my website, but just Google intermittent fasting. More important, if you really want the cliff notes, just reach out to me and start some type of program like that. Because especially now, I look at now like kind of like how I eat on vacation. On vacation, I know I'm not going to follow my plan 100%. But the two things that I do follow all the time are daily workouts and some form of fasting. And so the simplest way to do it is called a 16-8. And it means you eat in an 8-hour window, right? And for most people, they like to have dinner with their family. So they'll start eating at noon and they'll stop eating at 8, okay? And then they basically are fasting for 16. The beauty of that is if you sleep 8 hours, 8 hours of your fast is sleeping. So it's not that hard. And that is so powerful that it's going to kind of make up for some of the chips and maybe the cookies that we might eat. I'm not saying not to focus on those other things, but the fasting is so powerful. And this is crazy. I always say I want all my money back for my graduate degree because everything I learned 20, 30 years ago is wrong now, right? And they said a calorie is a calorie. If you eat 2,000 calories over 12 hours, it's the same as if you eat it in 4 hours. Well, it's not. And so the research is showing you could eat the same food in an 8-hour window versus a 16-hour window, and you'll lose weight in the 8-hour window. That's crazy to me. It's everything I didn't learn, but it's been proven by science. And I've seen it. I've seen it when I go on vacation. I have more alcohol. I drink, I eat foods that are not on my thing, and I don't gain weight. And so
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. So that would be my biggest hack, because this could be a 4-hour podcast if we talk about, specifics in terms of food and substituting vegetables for chips and things like that. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other hack I figured out too is that if I drink a glass of water in between my wine, it seems to have
Huge.
less ill effect the following day, and I'm hydrated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a
just
lot of that is hydration. And here's a little known hack, or a little known fact, which also is a hack. Alcohol lowers your blood sugar. That's why Waffle House looks so good on the way home from the bars, right? Like everybody goes there and they never eat chicken breast at 2 a.m. They eat pancakes and fun foods. So one of the things you can do is drink like half a Gatorade or have a banana before you go to sleep if you've been drinking, and you'll wake up with a little more blood sugar in it, and you won't be as craving all the bad foods. So somehow every talk we have, Rick, ends up on alcohol. I'm just throwing that out there.
As you may recall, you were our guest at a leadership academy, and I think we spent a good 30 minutes just talking about which alcohols were better for you or less long-term damaging. And maybe you could I bet that's going to show up. By the way, if anybody has a question specific to what we're talking about, throw it up in the chat side. We're not going to open up verbal questions when we have 100 people on our call. That could create chaos. But if you throw a question and Rami glance occasionally, or I'll look over, and and it's relevant, and we feel like, I feel like I have time to do it, I'll push it in. So I
Yeah.
know one of the questions is always like wine, the virtue of wine versus
Right.
liquor and types of liquor. Maybe take 1 second to go there, because I'm sure there's somebody going, man, what's my better option, and what's
Yeah.
a limit I should impose?
Yeah, it's funny. I worked for Northside Hospital for 11 years, and I got in so much trouble because I would talk about alcohol in my talks, right? But I was like, excuse me, like 90% of the people in your audience drink alcohol. So we need to, we need to broach it and talk about proper ways to do it. So somebody just wrote, yep, I need to know. I love that. So, so first and foremost, realize that alcohol, no matter what you drink, acts like and is a carbohydrate in your body. So when you're drinking, one of the best things you can do, you go out. I love steak restaurants. If I know I'm going to have alcohol with my meal, I don't allow the bread to come to the table, right? I just say, don't bring it, because if it's there, you're going to eat it. And luckily my wife is on the same page, so we can do that. And then instead of my carbohydrate for the side, I just have extra vegetables. So in other words, make the decision before you eat dinner. What is more important to you, the potato or the glass of wine? But don't have both. So look at it that way. So really, no matter what you drink, realize that that is your side item. Your wine, your vodka, whatever, is your side item. So kind of a trade-off. Everybody, one of the best combos in the world is what? Red wine with bread and butter, right? Like, it's amazing. But that combo is one of the easiest ways to put on body fat. So just give yourself extra food in form of vegetables or protein, and then take away the other one. In an answer to what's best, typically it's a very simple answer. The more distilled, the better. So something like a pure distilled, like a Tito's vodka, is much better for you than well, obviously better than a margarita, because that's pure sugar, right? But something like a beer or a wine is not distilled. It's gonna act differently in your body. So when I have people that are on low carbohydrate diets, which is about 50% of my clients, we stick to almost always vodka with club soda or vodka on the rocks. You're gonna drink less, hopefully, right? And also, the more distilled, it has much lower carbohydrate and sugar, and it reacts differently in your body. So, having a martini, very, very dry, is a way better option than half a bottle of wine, right? Everybody loves wine. I'm not saying not drink it. Just when you do, realize, cut my carbs in other ways, okay?
Okay.
That is just think of this is my potato. Like, this is what I enjoy. I had a client who, she just loved dessert. So I was like, that's fine. Have dessert. I don't mind. You can factor anything in, right? Just trade off. Don't have potatoes and don't have any other carb. The other thing, like, I'll give you a sample. I had a client once who he was in his 40s, wanted to get to 10% body fat. And those numbers, Rick, right? Like, that's not easy for an 18-year-old. For a 40-year-old, very tough. And he was a wine connoisseur and drank a full bottle of wine 7 days a week by himself. Guess what? He got there.
Wow.
He ate 0 carbohydrates except for that wine. All he had was meat and vegetables, and he was able to get there. And the guy worked out like a fiend as well. I'm not suggesting that, by the way. That's all anybody's going to remember from this talk, right? 1 bottle of wine and I can do anything I want. It's more that, it can be done. It's a trade-off. So.
Okay. That's awesome. Thanks for that. That's amazing feedback. So one of the questions, I'll jump in, intermittent fasting, does that mean you can't have coffee, assuming plant-based milk, before noon if you do the 8 on, 12 off? Or
awesome question. Off? One of the number ones I get. I'm fasting right now and I'm drinking coffee. So there's the answer. And I have cream in it. Now, I will tell you, it's different for everybody. I know everyone hates that answer, but it's very individual. I will walk people through what they can have while they're fasting. For the most part, most people, it's water, black coffee, or plain tea in the morning. That's it. And caffeine's actually really good for fasting, so I highly recommend it. Some people can get away with things during there, and the only way to know that is to test your blood sugar. So people that are really into this, I have them buy a blood sugar tester, just like they're diabetic, and they test it. I found that I can do coffee with an artificial sweetener and cream. I can't do milk. It's interesting. Milk has more sugar than like heavy cream does. So I can do heavy cream and it doesn't affect my fasting at all. But that's me individually. So it's just a thing to test. You're getting most of the benefit. You know, I'm getting a repeat on my audio. That's weird.
Just a little bit for a second. It's good.
Okay.
So
cool.
Someone asked the reason for trading off bread for a glass of wine is that they're both your body treats them as carbs.
Yep. And in fact, the wine is even like a super carb. Like it's one of the reasons you get buzzed so quickly is your body actually starts to absorb alcohol from your stomach. It doesn't even have to go into the intestines. So there you have it. That's why a shot works so quickly.
Is there an explanation as to why the French don't have the same obesity issues we do, and they eat tons of bread and drink wine like crazy?
Yeah, there's a great book called The French Paradox, and that's what it's about. Everyone has their own theories. I went to Italy, had the greatest vacation, ate all the carbohydrates I want, didn't feel bad. That's another thing. Like I feel terrible when I eat processed carbs here. The carbs there are different. The food's fresher. It's not processed. But I will tell you my theory, and this comes from studies too, they eat a whole heck of a lot less than we do. So even though they might be having bread and wine, if you go to it, like if an Italian comes here and goes to Ippolito's, I'm always throwing Ippolito's under the bus. Sorry, George, he used to be a client. And he goes to an Italian from Italy goes to Ippolito's, and they put the plate in front of him. He will push it into the middle of the table because he thinks it's family style. That's the difference in portion sizes between Europe and America. That's my cue. That's really what I believe when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, there's another hack. My wife and I were in the habit. We adopted the habit over the last few years of just sharing one entree, and I've never gotten up from a table not feeling, full and satiated. So it goes to show we just eat till it's gone out of habit, or whether your mom scolded you for not clearing your plate.
Yeah, whatever the psychology is, and there you go, and you're saving money too, Rick. So it's awesome.
Well, it's just the byproduct of smart thinking.
Right.
Jason Janowski asks, are you a supplement kind of guy? And if yes, what do you do to enhance your diet and health and well-being?
I am, but my answer to that is always do the 95% first. So supplements are 5% of the equation. And a lot of people start with that. So they don't work out, they don't eat right, they sleep 4 hours a night, and then they take a multivitamin and some fat burner and they think that that's going to work. Really, it's, get 6 to 8 hours sleep, hopefully closer to 8, work out every day, get some sunshine, eat a proper nutrition. And then when you've gotten to that level, then you add supplements in. So that's the biggest mistake people make with supplements. Instead of using them to take them to a new level, they think that's their starting place. I take a pre-workout, which I love, which is just a version of caffeine before my workout. I take a greens powder instead of a multivitamin. These are actually all on my website too, under products I love. So these have been tested. I've done the research. So you can just kind of go under there and check out the stuff that I take. Everything under there is stuff I've vetted myself. I take fish oils. I think everybody should. I don't eat enough fish. Most people don't. And then I take, depending on my level of training, I take like a turmeric or something like that to be anti-inflammatory. But I will tell you, hands down, that diet is the most powerful supplement you can have. So when I'm spot on my diet, I hardly need any of that stuff. I take it, especially now, to boost my immunity and to kind of get me feeling stronger. And I'm a huge proponent of the greens powder instead of a vitamin because it takes everything from nature. It's not going into a lab and being created. It's literally from plants, which is what we need to do.
So share your website and the way to reach you, and Niali will type that in the comments for everybody as a reference.
Awesome. It's super easy. It's just coachrami.com, R-A-M-I, coachrami.com. And everything is there. My links to my Facebook pages, my books that I've written. Love you guys. If you're spiritual, I do a daily inspirational post on my book Facebook page. Love you to like that and, kind of get on there. But yeah, coachrami.com.
Awesome. You mentioned an anti-inflammatory. I wake up every morning and feel like just my feet are everything just feels, what do you use for that again?
I went kind of quick. So fish oils are great. So high quality fish oil is awesome. And I can recommend one to you. And then turmeric is really good, and curcumin. Those are really good for you. One of the best things you can do for achiness is eliminating foods that are inflammatory. And I hate to tell you this, but the top two are gluten and alcohol, bread and wine. Sorry.
Everything.
That's right. So, and again, I'm not, you can tell I'm not a guy that wants abstinence, right? I just want people to be aware of what's causing it and make the decision of what's important to you. Like one of the big ones for me is dairy. I know that. I've tested it. I've cut it out of my diet for 30 days and literally all the aches from 42 years of running go away. But I love it, right? I enjoy cream in my coffee. I mean, I like cheese. So it's a trade-off for me, right? I don't overdo it because I don't want to be in so much pain. I got to the point where I was in so much pain that I couldn't even enjoy my activities. That's a big why for me, right? So then I did an elimination diet, cut everything out and then added stuff back. It's a lot of work, but it's a great thing to do. And again, happy to walk anybody through it, you know, no charge, just help you through that process anytime you want.
Awesome. 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 So I want to talk about three more things really. And so I think we've got time. We've got about 22 more minutes or so. One would just be physical. What are the physical hacks or ways to, given we're kind of in lockdown mode? I know mine right now is that I have a desk that I can elevate and I stand up as often as I can and comfortably, and I move and I kind of find myself stretching. And if you see me bobbing, that's what I'm doing. I'm
Yeah,
standing
I was
out.
wondering what you were doing. I thought you were
Well,
still listening to AC/DC.
I am. I've got the headphone behind me, but
Yeah.
So what would you, from a physical perspective, given this shelter in place, what are you finding the most effective ways, and from a health, like physical activities perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, what I'm recommending to everyone is to get outside. And I think some people are avoiding it. We're getting stuck. It happens to me. I do things like this, these calls, and all of a sudden I look up and it's 4 o'clock and like, I don't even know where the day went. And so taking outside breaks, even if they're 10 minutes, walk around your neighborhood, the benefit of getting away from your computer, getting away to quiet your brain, which is what my books are about. They're called Quiet the Noise. And then also getting sunshine on your face. Vitamin D is really good for immunity. And most of us, about 90% of Americans, are deficient. So the best way to get vitamin D is 10 minutes of no sunscreen sun with no sunglasses. So let the sun go in through your eyes, just 10 minutes, that's all you need. We don't get a whole lot of it, especially in the winter. As far as workouts, I am actually making this easy for everybody. I'm posting workouts 3 times a week on my Facebook page that you can do in your home with no equipment. I like doing them. I do them in my garage or in the driveway. Neighbors think I'm crazy, but it's great for building business. You know, they come over, what the heck are you doing? You know, but they are super simple, 20 to 30 minutes. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. It's strength training, which to me is the most important thing to do. I'm a runner. I love running, but strength training is more important than anything, especially as we age. And the time is not that much. So it's, you know, if I tell somebody 30 to 40 minutes 2 times a week, anybody can do that. So when we link it, let's make sure, somebody just asked my Facebook page name. So Quiet the Noise is the book. It's all one thing, Quiet the Noise. And then my name, Rami Odeh, is my personal page. And I'm posting the workouts on both of those and on my story. And I post those Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Free for everybody, just grab them. And then just message me if you have any questions and I'll walk you through the whole exercise.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for that, man. You're generous in everything that you do, and you always come from contribution. But you know what? People probably don't know. I didn't share this, but you're a certified badass when it comes to triathlons and 100-mile runs. And can you share a couple of experiences that, you know, we had Charlie Engle, and you know him as a, you know him personally.
Yep.
And it was one of the more interesting conversations about, you know, he migrated into mindset and preparation for a big race, or, you know, physically extreme physicality required. Two things. One, share a couple of your most brutal experiences that you survived and thrived through. And then what did you do to prepare? What is someone, if you ever wanted to go extreme, what would that look like?
Yeah, that's awesome. And do you mind if I use certified badass on my business card now? Because I love that.
I think you should. You should.
Can I take that? Yeah, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't think I am at all. It's really funny. Everything is a matter of being relative, and in the groups that I hang out in, I'm a wimp. So, you know, just imagine the world that I live in. But yeah, so I do, you know, like I said, I started running when I was 15 and became a triathlete in my 20s. I do everything that I don't know how or don't like. I hated swimming and didn't know how to swim, so I became a triathlete. First time I rode a motorcycle, I crashed it through a wall. First time I ran, I couldn't make it a quarter mile around the block. There's a theme here, you know, I like to overcome adversity.
That's right.
I got into running, did triathlon for about 15 years, ended up doing one Ironman. I loved it for a long time, and then I didn't love it anymore. It got super competitive, very expensive, just it wasn't fitting my why anymore. So I got back to hiking and nature, which I love, and then I turned that into trail running, and that's what led me to off-road running, and that's what led me to write my books, and it led me to spirituality and religion. So it's been a great benefit in my life. And so I'll give you a couple of samples. There's one race called the Georgia Death Race. There's a great name for you, right? So you can get an idea. And if you know North Georgia at all, you run from Vogel State Park to Amicalola State Park. And you have one day to do it. It's over 70 miles, and it has over 20,000 feet of elevation gain. So think about that. Mount Everest is 29,000 feet. So it's got 20,000 feet, probably harder than my 100-miler. And, you know, given that I wasn't as well trained for it, and the terrain was, I can't even explain, like the hills are so steep that you crawl up them, and then you get no break on the downhill because you're sliding down. You're not running down and, you know, having a nice break. And there's 70 miles of that. So that race took me 19 hours and 30 minutes. So let's repeat that, 19 hours and 30 minutes of running off-road. And by the way, I pay for this and I enjoy it, and this is my hobby. So now you all know I'm crazy. So that was an incredible experience. I've never felt so bad after a race. I've done over 300 endurance races. I lost track at 250, so I'm just assuming that it's over 300 in the past probably 20, 30 years. And that one, I've never felt like that ever in a race. My whole body completely shut down. So there's a good one. And then one more sample is a race. If you guys ever want to see a crazy documentary, look up the Barkley Marathons. It's a very unknown race, which has the lowest finisher rate of any race in the world. In 30 years, only 15 people have finished it. So thousands have tried, 15 have finished it. I'm nowhere near even able to qualify to go to it, but they created a race called the Barkley Fall Classic, which was a sample. So in the race, they run 5 loops in the Tennessee mountains, okay? We got to run 1 loop, and it was way easier. And to give you a sample of what this was like, and this sounds crazy, but this is God's honest truth, there was a 1-mile stretch that took me 1 hour and 45 minutes, a 105-minute mile. Think about that. So you're crawling. The average grade, so think of a treadmill goes to 15%. The average grade on that climb was 42%. So you were
Holy
crawling.
Cow.
The middle of the day, no water, 85 degrees. Oh, by the way, through briars. So you're using briars to pull yourself up. Again, I paid for this, drove to Tennessee to do it. So those are 2 little samples of races that stick out in my memory. Fun days.
So what's the mindset that goes into, you know, knowing that you've signed up for something that's near impossible? I mean, is there a ritual, or how do you set tone and tempo for preparation? And I'd like it if you can, you know, dial this down to something less superhuman and anything challenging that you've never done. I mean, for me, it was a sprint triathlon, and the first step for me was just sign up and then recognize what I had to do and be in pieces and parts. What advice would you give if someone wanted to take a first step towards being more active?
Well, you just did it, Rick. You just answered my question, which is exactly what I would say, is that the first thing you have to do is just take the leap and sign up. And you know me well enough to know my way of business, racing, life is ready, fire, aim. And I know you do that in some things too. And so I would never prepare, I would never train for that Barkley race unless it was on my calendar. I had paid for it. I'm going with friends. We have a hotel. I'm not gonna not finish this thing, right? So having it looming is the word I like to use. It's out there. Don't say, oh, I might sign up. I love when people say, I'll sign up if I get in shape. No way. That's not gonna happen. You sign up first. Yeah, and then make it even more powerful. You know, have some type of other accountability set to it. And then the other thing you said, you know, like I said, you took the words out of my mouth, are breaking it into small chunks. You mentioned that I ran a 100-mile race, and that was on the Pinhoti Trail in Alabama. We ran the full length of the whole Talladega National Forest. So it was completely off-road, 100 miles off-road, took me 26 hours and 52 minutes. And I just did a whole podcast on that with someone. And my answer was, it wasn't a 100-mile race. It was a race from aid station to aid station. And they have aid stations every 5 to 7 miles where you can fill your water, go to the bathroom, get some food, get some camaraderie. You can go hours without seeing another human being in these races. And it gets really scary and really lonely, especially through the night, because that 26 hours is straight. So you run through the dark. Breaking that race up, knowing that I was going to see my family at mile 40, like having little gifts like that. I signed up 3 friends. It's funny, my friends ran lengths with me, and for some of them, it was the longest they'd ever run. Like one guy ran 17 miles. He's like, I'm going to run 17 miles. And I'm like, yeah, that's one length of the race with me, right? But having those guys with me, oh my Lord, that's the key for me. You know, somebody was asking me what I miss most in COVID. Yes, I miss nature. I miss the trails, but I can sacrifice that. I miss the friends. I miss the camaraderie so much. And so that mindset, knowing that there's something there. And the other thing I did, Rick, is, and we talked about this yesterday, is I made it way bigger than me. So when I knew I was going to sign up for this, I decided to do it for charity. And I searched and searched and searched for, you know, American Cancer Society, charities that I could do. But they were all too big and I didn't like the administrative costs. So I went to my priest at the church and I said, what should we do? And he said, well, you're involved in the homeless shelter. Let's see what we can do for them. So I had people, and I think you did, and I know a lot of people did, pledge per mile. Because my theory was, if I knew that every mile I ran was more money for the homeless men in downtown Atlanta, I knew there was no way, unless I had to go to the hospital, that I wasn't going to finish. And that kept me going. And just to have a shameless plug, we ended up raising the most one-time donation that the homeless shelter has ever had in 40 years.
Wow.
Really quick, funny story. I walked downtown with all the checks that you guys had written in a little bag in downtown Atlanta, if you know where the big homeless shelters are, to hand it to the person who runs it. And they announced it to all the homeless guys and they all cheered and, you know, they were so happy and all that. And then they proceeded to tell me how crazy I was. So think about that. A group of homeless men, many of them with drug problems and all that, were telling me how crazy I was. I thought that was pretty funny. So anyway, bigger than me, small steps. And then that jumping into it before you're ready, that's a big mindset for me. Making it, you know, making it out there, putting it out there.
Yeah, and then bring your tribe in with you so that there's accountability, support, positive, and some, you know, just awareness that you're doing it. And when other people, you know, I find that people will often do things for someone else they won't do for themselves.
People will do
In a
things
health
for their
crisis.
pets. People will do things for their pets that they wouldn't do for themselves. There's a crazy statistic that people will give their pets medicine 95% of the time, and they only take their own medicine 50% of the time. Is that crazy? But you get
crazy.
it, right?
Yeah. Trying to process that, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I get it. We stopped for a stray dog earlier today, and I'm like, I'm going to be late for my Zoom call. My wife's like, you do know that like for 3 days from now, I'm going to be worried about that dog. So
oh God.
Anyway,
I know.
we stopped, and then it ran off into its own yard. It was obvious because he grabbed a toy and sat on the porch. So he felt better.
I love it. So he was okay.
No. Yeah. But it is, yeah, he's good. He's good. So I love your, you know, I even quoted you yesterday in the preemptive video. I shot a video just to get people hopefully excited about being here, and judging by the crowd and the questions, the engagement, it's working well. And I appreciate that. The positive feedback's awesome. But I have no problem sacrificing when it's for the greater good. And what a brilliant thing to say. And what I would challenge everyone on the Zoom call today is, what is the greater good in this experience, in this time? And this, you know, this is a unique experience and a unique opportunity to self-reflect, and also an opportunity to figure out what the greater good is relative to the silver lining in this COVID-19, you know, season of life. And I'd like to think there's a season and a reason for everything. So here we are. So let's see. You talked about the greater good. I think you kind of hit on that with your run and the accountability for homeless. What keeps you up at night? What?
You know,
what's your biggest?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love that because I saw it beforehand. Nothing. I have to tell you, I don't stay up at night, and I'm going to attest that completely to my faith. And none of our faiths have been tested more than now. I mean, you and I have been through a lot. We've been through 9/11. We've been through the recession, been through many other things. And this is just unprecedented, right? Like nothing. The thing about this is you can't even go to your parents or your grandparents and say, what did you do when the pandemic happened, right? There's no advice during this. And,
That's right.
you know, I've had a couple of bad moments during this in 7 weeks. And I remember exactly when they were. One was I was in Jamaica with my son, spring break. You know, he's 18, gets to drink for the first time, I hope. Um, and, uh, and I started watching the news. And I've made it a rule that I don't watch the news during times like, I don't watch the news, period, but I really don't watch it during times. But I got stuck and went down a rabbit hole, and my brain did this, right? Like, what if, and what if this happens, and oh my gosh, and then this, and I literally did not sleep that night. So that night I did stay up. I made a full commitment. I'm not watching the news anymore. It'll get to me. I'm not worried about being informed. You know, it's going to show up somehow if it's important. So I really don't. I have great rituals as far as my prayer time, my quiet time, and I fall asleep like a baby. So there's, you know,
That's beautiful.
I feel very blessed. Yeah.
Well, you obviously, in your mind, in your heart, you've got, and any outcome is going to be the right outcome, is what I'm feeling. And so that's a beautiful place to be. Is there anything you're doing unique to this experience that you weren't doing before, like other than ignoring the news at a new level?
Yeah, definitely at a new level. A couple of things have been really cool. I'm reaching out to a lot of friends that I haven't talked to in years, and this format has been amazing. I'm sure you've done virtual happy hours. They are a blast. I thought it was such an idiotic idea in the beginning. I'm like, what? You're going to drink online? But it's really fun. And I literally connected, and we laughed because we're like, we've been best friends, really good friends for 40 years, some guys from college. And it takes a global pandemic for us to actually set up a, you know, like a call. Like, this was available before this. So that I'm doing a lot. I have one of them today. Those are great. I'm spending a ton of time in my neighborhood. So, you know, my little tiny neighborhood, you sold us this house. And,
Right.
you know, like, I know every house, I'm meeting my neighbors, like that kind of thing. You're just sort of forced into that. But, you know, one of the things I'm doing that's kind of great is I'm not changing a lot. I'm keeping my same rituals. I try to get up at a similar time every day. I go to bed at the same time. Like, I know a lot of people have fallen out of their rituals, and that's a big danger. So I'm leaning even heavier into the things that bring me peace. I think that's really what I'm doing is, you know, I'm never missing my prayer time. I'm working more on meditation, things like that.
Nice.
Cool.
That's a beautiful answer. Thanks for sharing that. I know Francisco Vidal may be on the Zoom. I invited him, and he's one of my friends, a great musician and just a phenomenal guy. He's doing a lot of virtual shows, and you could invite him to entertain your database as a social hour with music. And
Oh, cool.
I know he mentioned, yeah, it is cool. And he mentioned another friend of his that had him over to play his yard and just turn up every speaker he owns to like 11, so that the entire neighborhood could feel acoustic, you know, rock and roll live music. And so those
great.
things are available. This is a really cool opportunity to get creative and share energy and positivity that you might just, you know, scoff at or walk past. Now every moment matters more than ever when there's, you know, crisis at hand. I think there's even that famous
jumping in
quote.
real quick because I'll forget, you know, I'm 100 years old, right? Like, my memory will go. So creativity, you know, even before this whole thing happened, I was talking to my kids and I was talking to friends about how creativity has really suffered in this world because we have zero boredom time. And that's when creativity comes out. And look what the world did for us. You know, like, my creativity is through the roof. I'm starting my 4th book during this process. And it's going to be about this, you know, kind of like the lessons I've learned during COVID, but how they apply to life. So I've already got the outline done. I wouldn't have done that. Well, first of all, I wouldn't have anything about COVID, but I mean, my creativity has been kind of shunted lately because, in a blessed way, I've been extremely busy since I sold my company, which is great, but this gave me that opportunity. And that is something that I'm definitely doing differently, that I've started writing again, which is great.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So what's your best advice you ever received? Let's go somewhere random for fun.
I love it.
Is there any one thing that you went, wow, that was a turning point?
Yeah. And I repeat this one all the time, and I do it to all my friends. So the best advice I ever gotten was from my spiritual mentor, who I meet with about once a month. He's in his 70s, and most of what we talk about is marriage. And he would repeat to me over and over, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I would blah, 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 and I'd talk, and then he would stop. It was kind of like that scene in Good Will Hunting, and he'd say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Because you can't have both. And of course, I thought that I could have both, you know. So best advice I've ever gotten. Took me about 9 years to implement it because I'm kind of stubborn, but, you know, that's a good one. So just remember that when you're fighting.
it's probably not worth it in the end, right?
No,
Yeah.
no,
I
I
think the
love
way
it.
I frame that with my kids when they would argue occasionally is, sometimes right is wrong, and especially if it harms the relationship, so that you don't
Right.
get the joy from it you could.
Yeah.
How about a favorite mentor? Who do you listen to on maybe a podcast, or who do you read? What's your favorite source?
Yeah. I like a lot of podcasts for the people that they get. I really love Rich Roll. I love the way he does things. And it's interesting because we couldn't be more different in terms of politics, in terms of he's a vegan, I'm a keto diet. Like we're worlds apart in like how we apply to the world. But I love the way he connects with his guests. He's just a great, great interviewer. I love Joe Rogan, like everybody else. As far as medically and during this time, one of the things I did too is I'm only following the people I followed before this thing happened. I'm not
Mm.
finding new gurus during this, right? Like maybe Fauci, but nobody else. So Peter Attia, in terms of nutrition, fasting, exercise, and now he's doing stuff on COVID. He's an MD. He's great. His podcast is called The Drive. Um, he's real dry and really smart. So drink a lot of coffee before you get on. Like it's not entertaining like Joe Rogan at all. It's very serious, but I like him a lot. And I have personal mentors that just in my life that have been with me, and they're really my favorites. Those are the guys that really keep me grounded and accountable.
Awesome. I'm looking to the right to see if there are any questions. I see one asking if I'm painting yet. And the irony in this scenario is that I love to paint and I love to write music. I have written some guitar parts and stuff. So Sean Damon, you're on the call. I've got some material to work with. That's come easier because it's right at my fingertips. But something about dragging my stuff out, the paints and the tarps and so I would just say that thank you for the question, Jenny. And the answer is it's been on my list for 7 weeks now since we started, playing this hibernation game, or at least sheltering. And I think the secret I need to drag it out and make it something that I would trip over trying to get to the refrigerator, so
Yep.
that doesn't look like a task. The getting ready part needs to happen in advance so that it becomes much easier to grab and go. And I think this is a beautiful opportunity to learn something new. I know that, like online training, whether it's
Right.
music or art or, reading something unique or different that you've never read, or being curious and investing time. And my secret advice is, one, prep for it, which thank you for the reminder, because I haven't done that. I did bring my recording studio up here and just set it up yesterday. So I'm excited by that. And the other thing is build it into your day planner. If it's not in your day
Right.
planner, it doesn't exist, and set an appointment to actually do it. And then
Yeah.
tell someone who can later do what you just did for me, Jenny, and remind me that I'm letting myself down. And that's
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
So something no one knows about you, or one last thought? I think we're right on the money, and this has been
Okay.
awesome, Rami. I sincerely appreciate your wisdom and your heart for contribution. It means everything. And
That was
man,
great.
you're a
Well,
treasured friend.
yeah. And so I thought about this one because, again, you pre-prepped me a little bit with the questions, and you probably know this, but I don't think anybody would guess it. My favorite type of music is heavy metal. And I mean, like classic Queensryche, Rat, all the 80s stuff. And I still listen to it. And what's crazy is I looked at my son's Spotify and he's listening to it now. So I like all kinds of music except for maybe rap, but everything else. But if I'm going to lean to something, especially on a long run, people would think it would be, and I love inspirational Christian music, love it. But when I'm like out for a really long one, I need my Led Zeppelin and I
Something
mean,
with some backbone.
yeah, even Black Sabbath, which is crazy being a Christian, but I'll throw that one out there.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. The irony in that. So,
I know.
Sean Damon did ask me one texted question. I don't know why he didn't post it, other than there must be an inside story. But Fresca, why would
Fresca.
he have asked me Fresca? Yeah, I'm not
I
sure
don't know.
exactly what he was looking for.
Well,
I
somebody
think
asked
that's his
about,
favorite mixer.
yeah, yeah. Well, Diet Fresca is fine. Somebody asked about diet drinks and artificial sweeteners. And again, it's individual, but it's not the bad thing that people think it is. If you look at the science, for most people, they're absolutely fine. So a Diet Fresca and vodka and Tito's vodka, I approve of that cocktail, if that's what the question was.
There you go. Well, I just want to thank you again, Rami. It's been tremendous to, a lot of this because I've been friends with you for so long. Just a reminder, and you reminded me that learning's not linear; it's layered, and it's small steps in the right direction. It's commitment. It's having a ritual that you stick to, and then being accountable to it. So, thanks for the insight. Appreciate everybody coming on board with me today, and we'll see you next Friday at 11.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks,
Reach out to Rami. Remind everybody your website one more time.
It is coachrami.com, R-A-M-I, coachrami.com.
Awesome. Reach out. Lots of free information, and he's available to consult. Take care.
Thanks.